Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Boy, this would be devastating to all of the Saints hate LSU players crowd, wouldn't it? A year after they signed Tyron and Jarvis, Field Yates tweeting on Saturday, the Saints hosted free agent tight end Foster Moreau on a visit. He's a New Orleans native and played his college ball at LSU. This would actually be magnificent if this happened, so that way maybe the rest of the NFL would stop saying Moreau and call the man by his name, which is Foster Moreau, as we all know. But listen, Foster prepped at Jesuit, went to LSU. We all know the story. Really emerged, became a fantastic player in his time at LSU. On the 2018 team, was drafted by the Raiders, spent a year in Oakland, and then the last three, was there for the transition, was there in Oakland for one season, and then the last 3 seasons in Las Vegas with the Raiders, and notably with Derek Carr. So you could file this under one of the most obvious free agent targets that could possibly exist. So first of all, of course, there's the connection to Derek Carr. So Carr and Moreau were teammates with the Raiders for each of the last 4 years. And when you look at Foster's production, obviously he was on a roster and in a tight end room that included Darren Waller. And Waller is magnificent, but the Raiders just traded Waller to the Giants. And after having 20 receptions as a rookie and 7 receptions in his second season, each of the last 2 years, we've seen Foster Moreau's production as a pass catcher increase. 30 catches in 2021, 33 catches in 2022. So we're not looking at a guy that's going to be a primary receiving tight end target, especially because he was on a team that had Darren Waller. But he is your traditional inline, fixed, attached tight end who can also catch the football. He's the prototypical traditional tight end. And the Saints have always had this guy. I mean, just think about over the last 15 years, if it were Dan Campbell, if it were Michael Ho'omanawanui, if it were Josh Hill, recently it was Nick Vannett that they brought in from Denver. Like, the Saints have always had this guy as a complement to their pass-catching tight end. Jeremy Shockey, Jimmy Graham, Benjamin Watson, the free agent signings they tried with Kobe Fleener and Jared Cook. They've always had this guy. They've had the guy that can be the attached tight end who can block, who can run block, who can pass block, who can also is versatile enough to go catch the football. That is Foster Moreau. So I like it for those reasons. You just signed Juwan Johnson to a 2-year deal. So you have your pass-catching tight end. And yes, you still have Adam Troutman on the last year of his rookie deal. But I think it's fair to say that Troutman has emerged as a better blocker than he is a pass catcher, as that's never really materialized the way we thought or hoped it would when he was taken in the 3rd round out of Dayton. So if you have an opportunity to bring in Foster Moreau on a deal financially that makes sense, fantastic. Of course, there are the local ties. He's from New Orleans, played at Jesuit, and the Saints have, in the last 2 years, signed Tyron and Jarvis, and now they're looking at Foster Moreau, and there's a lot of reasons why that makes sense. If you have a player that has a history with the city, the organization, some fan attachment, that's a bonus. It's not a necessity or even the primary reason why you should make a signing like this, but it certainly would be a bonus. The other big question, though, is need and affordability. Or I should say it another way, options and affordability. So I like to look at Spotrac. You'll know that it's the website that deals with all the contracts for professional sports. And if you look at Moreau and what they project for him, you can go to Spotrac, and there's an option where you can look at a player's market value. And for Moreau, they look at his market value and they project it as a 4-year, $36 million contract, which if he were able to get that, great for him. That's $9 million per year. And if Foster's able to get that, I think we would all be tickled for him and excited and thrilled that he would get that kind of contract. I don't know if that's feasible, if he's going to get that. I don't know if New Orleans will get him that. But what I would say is we know when we look at the Saints' salary cap numbers right now, oddly, they've now sort of flipped with all of the space that they've been able to make available with their restructures. The Saints have about $16 million in cap space. Keep in mind they've still got to sign their eventual draft picks, but they still have money to sign free agents if that option could potentially be there. Do they want to invest that type of money in a tight end when you've already given Juwan Johnson a 2-year extension? I don't know. The Saints will have to make that decision ultimately where they want to prioritize spending. But here's the by the way, here's the page on Spotrac. If you want to pull this up, you can there, Paulie. So here's what they project his calculated market value. $9 million annual average salary. They project Foster with it for a 4-year, $36.1 million contract. Now, are the Saints willing to commit a 4-year deal to Foster Moreau? I have no idea. Maybe not, because they've already invested in Juwan Johnson. But if you want to sign Moreau to a team-friendly type deal that can spread money over future years, you could certainly do that. The other big question is, will Foster Moreau have better options? It's worth noting that, of course, the Raiders just traded Darren Waller to the Giants. And the Raiders are looking at free agent tight ends that would sort of replace Waller in that stretch the field pass catcher type role. But Foster Moreau could certainly return to Las Vegas. That would be one option for him. He also visited, after he visited the Saints on Saturday, he visited the Bengals on Friday. So could you potentially see Foster Moreau reunite with Joey B in Cincinnati? No, Hayden Hurst is now in Carolina, so Cincinnati has a need as well. It will come down to basically what every free agent signing comes down to. What is your best option, or what's your best opportunity to play, et cetera, and who's going to invest the most financially in you? The Saints can be competitive. They have a need at this position, and it's a guy that would make a lot of sense for New Orleans at a position of need. Now it really comes down to, is Foster Moreau looking at a better option elsewhere on a team that maybe has a better chance to win, i.e. Cincinnati, and who might be able to spend more money. But one worth watching as a former LSU tight end, Foster Moreau, who is an unrestricted free agent, visited the Saints on Saturday, left without a deal, but we'll see what if anything, may be impending there for Foster Moreau as he's a free agent. All right, I would love it, by the way, if they were able to get that deal done to bring Foster Moreau to New Orleans. I would highly endorse, co-sign that for all the reasons we just talked about. They need that. They need a physical presence at that position, someone who knows Derek Carr. They have a good relationship and synergy as well. If Carr is on board with it, which by all accounts he is, yes, do it if you can make the numbers work. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.